I realized there's something unusual here. What 50-year-old male would be laying in bed at noon with medical equipment? We're not looking at the patient at that moment, until my partner did. He looked up and whispered the name, Michael Jackson.
Medic 33, what is the emergency?
Yes, sir. I need an ambulance as soon as possible, sir. Sir, we have a gentleman here that needs help, and he's not breathing.
You're talking about Michael Jackson here. It was absolutely huge.
There was a lot of pressure to get it right.
This isn't a man who should have died.
He's not breathing. He's not breathing, and we're trying to pump him, but he's not.
Okay. Okay, how old is he?
He's 50 years old, sir.
50, okay. He's unconscious, he's not breathing?
Yes, he's not breathing.
When we were dispatched to a 50-year-old male, cardiac arrest, we think this is a viable patient. This is someone, if we get to in a timely manner, we can save. And then when I enter this room, opulent room with medical equipment in it, I realized there's something unusual here. What 50-year-old male would be laying in bed at noon with medical equipment? We're not looking at the patient at that moment, until my partner did. He looked up and whispered the name, Michael Jackson. When I realized who it was, I was surprised. We had no idea he was there. None of us had any idea who was living in our neighborhood.
Did anybody witness what happened?
No, just the doctor, sir.
There was a man with our patient who identified himself as the doctor. And as such, I immediately asked him some information. What had happened? How long has this been going on? And he told me then that it had just happened. This was a patient to me that it seemed that he had not just passed away, that some time had gone by before we were notified. And in fact, later, when you're reflecting on this call, the days, the weeks, the months afterwards, one of the greatest regrets that all of us had was that we had not been called sooner. When we came outside, that's when we became aware of a very large presence. We were trying to back out on the street only to be hindered by many, many cameramen putting their lenses against the glass windows of the moving ambulance.
People seem to forget or don't realize about this investigation. It was a death investigation. It really wasn't a crime at the time.
From the information that I had, it was probably an accident or natural, and we would find out that he had some pre-existing medical condition, and then we would be done.
Just look at what we knew in the first hours of this. Taken to the hospital, there wasn't a bloody knife, there wasn't a smoking gun. There was nothing on the surface that would lead anyone to believe anything nefarious had occurred.
When I arrived at the hospital, Dr. Murray was gone. So he was no longer there at the scene.
We're in a bit of a panic then. The one person that was in a room with them at the time that everything happened is no longer at the hospital.
There were several attempts right away to get a hold of Dr. Murray, that were negative, that they were going to voicemail.
Yeah, family members, Jackson family members coming in and people wanting some questions answered as well as us.
It is believed he suffered cardiac arrest in his home. A team of doctors, including emergency physicians and cardiologists, attempted to resuscitate him.
The emergency room physician, they believed it was a heart attack, partly because of what Mr. Murray had told them. Never told them anything about any other narcotics or anything. They just believed he had had a heart attack and stopped breathing.
So here we are at the Carrollwood house. That day, by the time I got here, we had to block off this side of the street, the entrance side of the street, and it was full of media vans. We had never seen anything like it. I had never seen anything like it.
There was the room where Dr. Murray treated Mr. Jackson. And then there was a locked room, which was Mr. Jackson's bedroom. There's a fireplace in the room and it was roaring. So the room was very, very hot. There were like Post-it note or pieces of paper taped all over the room, on mirrors, on doors, with little slogans or phrases. I don't know if they were lyrics or thoughts or some of them seemed like poems. The bedroom was a mess. In the room where he was being treated, it did not seem like a room fit for any type of medical treatment. Not even like a home makeshift medical suite. It was just bare bones.
I just remember going in there and there's an IV stand and a saline bag and just various medications strewn about.
There was a computer on the bed. There was a lifelike doll on the bed. And it's kind of like advertisements of pictures with babies. Everybody knew about the allegations that had been leveled against Mr. Jackson over the years. One of the things when I saw the laptop on the bed, do I go into it? But you have to realize the type of case I was investigating.
When you get, hold of an investigation, you have to kind of whittle out what is and what isn't.
It's like with any case, you don't allow whatever the victim was into prior to his death. Your investigation is focused on how did he die and who was responsible for it.
In the room where he was being treated, a bottle of Propofol had fallen on the ground and rolled under this moving nightstand. I didn't know what it did. That ended up being a huge deal later. I had no medical background whatsoever. My neighbor was a doctor. So I went to my neighbor and I asked him about it. And my neighbor was the one who got it started of, whoa, what is this doing here? This is only used in surgeries. This is used to put people under. We had put it out in the press that We were looking for Dr. Murray. We still didn't think that there was anything criminal going on. The only thing that we knew was this surgery drug was at the location and it shouldn't have been there. The next day, get a call. His attorney has been in contact. He consents to an interview. So our plan was to let him talk. And that's what we did.
So, how long have you been a doctor for Mr. Jackson?
I first started attending to him in 2006.
And it was continuous 2006 on?
No, well, no.
Or on and off?
Off and on, intermittent.
Okay.
We didn't know what happened. We didn't want to assume anything. And we wanted to give the doctor an opportunity to dig his own hole, if that was the case.
So it's just you and Michael?
Usually that's how it is.
Okay. And this night it was just you and Michael?
Just myself and him.
And he proceeded to tell us that, Michael just couldn't sleep. He was just so amped up about this upcoming concert. He, by nature, had a hard time sleeping.
He gave him some drugs.
Some Valium, lorazepam, and diazepam, and a few other to try and calm Michael, to try and get him to rest, to fall asleep. And nothing works.
He was wide awake. I said, do you feel a little bit drowsy? Do you think your eyes are telling you want to sleep? He said no.
Dr. Murray says, after trying all these various things, nothing was working. And it's in the early morning hours of the next day. And so finally, I just gave Michael his milk.
And that time he said, I'd like to have some milk.
Milk?
Hot, cold milk? What are we talking about? He says, oh, well, it's a medication. Does the medication have a name? He says, well, it's Propofol. And this was, again, a big revelation during this interview that Propofol's mentioned.
And what is this Propofol?
It is a sedative that could also be used for anesthesia.
He freely admits that for months he's been using this to help Mr. Jackson sleep.
Okay, you've administered it more than 10 times?
Yes.
More than 20 times?
30 days a month, roughly, every day.
Oh, so it's about a daily?
Daily.
In my head, I was thinking, what the heck? To drug someone to sleep, even with their permission, the way that he did. I didn't think it was legal.
I monitored. I sat there and watched for long enough period that I felt comfortable.
He gave him Propofol and then goes to the bathroom, comes back. Mr. Jackson's not breathing.
So I started immediately to perform CPR and mouth-to-mouth resuscitation.
He goes into a panic. He tries CPR while Michael's on the bed. He summons Alberto Alvarez, the head of security, and ultimately Alberto Alvarez is the one that calls 911.
When we reviewed the CCTV at the mansion, we saw that he carried in a bag with him. And also the family and the security staff told us he would always carry a bag with him. When he went to the hospital, he did not have the bag with him.
The biggest aha moment was when I had asked Dr. Murray where his bags were.
Where's your bag where those syringes would be at now?
Oh, really?
I don't have that.
I thought you left it there.
He was assuming that we had it.
You haven't got my bags? Once he realized we didn't have that, he's like, deer in the headlights look, if you will.
Legally, we can search the areas that are relevant. It wasn't in the room that was relevant.
If you walk into the dressing room and you turn right, at the high level top, the bags are left there with the items in it.
In those moments, people aren't their sharpest. They're not thinking the best. So it's our job to take those little mistakes that people make and build a case on them.
Weeks went by, and we kept asking, when are we going to hear from toxicology? When are we going to hear?
We had a death, but we didn't have a criminal death yet.